You ever come across a movie that just looks so uninteresting and nothing special that you're just utterly fascinated by it? That's my reaction to In Your Dreams, the latest animated film produced by Netflix that, quite frankly, looked really unimpressive. Yeah, I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off and say it, I was really not sold by this film. It looked like a pretty unremarkable movie, and one that absolutely did not stand out amongst the sea of other animated films that have come out this year. You'd think, with a premise about two children venturing into the world of dreams, would be something that would be ripe for animation, and be at least somewhat interesting, but man, this just didn't do anything for me from its first impression. I really couldn't find myself caring for it. And I think you could probably say the same for animated films that Netflix Animation has produced over the past 2 years because, wow, I really have not cared about most of their films since 2023. At the start of the 2020s, it seemed like Netflix Animation was the studio to beat. They had a knockout smash start with Klaus back in 2019, and from there followed it up with some other noteworthy films over the years. Like, they were picking up some exceptionally interesting and captivating projects. And then something just happened. In 2022, they had a massive year with some fantastic films, and topping it off was Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which ended up winning them an Oscar. But I have a feeling that that Oscar might have gone to their head, because around that time, they began seriously falling apart with a lot of bad decisions. This included canceling a bunch of projects, laying off good people and talented creatives, making some really bad business decisions, and also in turn putting out some really bad movies. With the exception of Ultraman Rising in 2024, I have really not found myself caring or really liking any of Netflix's produced animated films that I have best found decent. And no, I'm not talking about the other films they've distributed from studios like Sony, DreamWorks, or Annapurna. I've loved plenty of those films, but I'm not giving Netflix credit for films like Nimona, Orion in the Dark, or K-pop Demon Hunters. I'm mainly looking at their in-house animated films because, yeah, what in the world is this? Like, this is pathetic. I guess it's kind of a major reason why I wasn't so captivated to see In Your Dreams. It just looked like another unimpressive animated film produced by Netflix. And what makes this even more baffling is that Netflix clearly wants this to be big. They started marketing this film back in June, and I think they were really hoping this was going to be their big animated film of the year, which is funny to think because K-pop Demon Hunters was a few days away from releasing, and it became the biggest film Netflix has ever released. It also didn't help matters that the trailers look pretty bad. Like, I felt nothing watching this, aside from annoyance, which is not something that I think you should be feeling watching a new film. Though, I'm always someone that can give a film a chance. Like I said, bad trailers have come from good movies. And this film was getting a bit of buzz from critics. Perhaps this could be a bit better than what it was made out to be, and something captivating? I mean, the same thing happened for Transformers 1. I didn't really care for those trailers, and I ended up really liking the movie. Maybe this is something like that? Yeah, this is not on the levels of Transformers 1. It wishes it was, because I really did not like this film at all. I know some critics have been really captivated by In Your Dreams, but I am not one of them. In my opinion, this is another clunker from Netflix Animation, and a film that really just doesn't do its premise justice, resulting in one of the most uninspiring and very badly handled films I've seen this year. This is a film that really did not make me feel moved in the slightest, and I ended up finding myself more bored than I would have expected in an animated film about dreams. And it's a bummer because this could have been something. But what we got mostly gave me nothing. Like, it's pretty much a nothing of a movie. In a Minnesota suburb, a girl named Stevie, played by Jolie Hong Rappaport, has felt that her family has been in shambles due to her parents, played by Simu Limu and Krista Milotti, arguing more lately, while her younger brother Elliot, played by Elias Jansen, has been more annoying than ever. Hoping to make things right, Stevie sets off to making her family more perfect by trying to find ways to improve their manners, which includes trying to get Elliot better grades, resulting in them stumbling across a secret book about dreams in a pawn shop. After realizing their dreams are linked after they both say a magical incarnation together from the book, the two children, alongside Elliot's stuffed animal Baloney Tony, played by Craig Robinson, set off across the dream world hoping to find the Sandman, played by Omid Djalili, to grant them their dream of keeping their parents together. I will start off this review by saying that there is a bit of creativity to be found in this premise. The idea of kids going into a dream world in the hopes of wanting to keep their possibly divorcing parents together? Sure, there is potential there. I could really see this working if they did it right. Here's the problem, though. They didn't. Because the story of the film is so badly written and thought out that it really got under my skin. This story feels exceptionally flimsy because despite the premise and promise of creativity, there really isn't a whole lot of moments that feel unique that were poured into this film. When watching it, it really made me think of a bunch of different films instead and how much better all of them did, and that's never a good sign. I've said before, but it doesn't matter if the idea isn't the most original. It's always the execution that matters. And with this film, I can name a dozen better movies I thought of when watching this that executed the ideas way better than In Your Dreams. Like the magical book that children find in the pawn shop to take them on a magical journey away from their real world problems. I mean, that was done in The Never-Ending Story, which isn't a perfect movie, but it's still slightly better than this. The whole journey in the dream world to find something to help accomplish their quest made me think back on Onward. And the whole thing with the various dreams and how the real-world visions influence them remind me of both of the Inside Out films, as well as the show Dream Productions. Hell, the movie involves moving and taking place in Minnesota. Tell me, what other film did that as well? And I bring up the Pixar films for a reason because it's really clear to me that this is trying to be on those levels. It wants to evoke the same kind of Pixar imagination and emotion that you would get from a film like Inside Out or Coco. And it shouldn't surprise you to learn that the film's director, Alex Wu, was a former Pixar storyboard artist. It's clear he wanted to make something like that, but man, there is just something about this film that really did not sit right with me. I don't like using this word often, but the best way I can describe this story is manipulative. It really wants to get people to laugh, it wants to make them cry, it genuinely wants you to care about them, and I just don't. I didn't feel a thing watching this, except for being more annoyed and baffled more than anything. And that's definitely not a good sign for a film like this, especially considering the plot feels pretty contrived and forced. The way it shows the family struggling isn't well set up. It's clear that the parents are struggling because they're now in separate bedrooms, which I thought was a clever detail. It's not really explained and just showed subtly. That's a good sign. But when we find out why they might possibly split up, it just makes the divorce feel a lot more one-sided than anything. So the basic gist is that the dad is a musician that hasn't been able to get his career off the ground, and the mom is trying to find a real job in order to pay the bills. And that results in her looking for a job as a professor at a new college in a new city, which means the family might have to move. And yet, the dad doesn't want to move for reasons. It's never clearly established why he doesn't want to move, and this is a big source of why the family is possibly going to be splitting up, even though the mom makes it clear that moving to a new town could help get the kids better education and get the family better money. So, I'm obviously going to be siding with her more than the dad in this situation. It just makes him look more selfish than anything. Like, why don't you want to move, dude? Because you don't like your mother-in-law? Because you can't finish your album? Because they don't have the discount Chuck E. Cheese you take your kids to? That's something you can live with, guy. Tough it up. Like, the whole thing with the divorce angle is so poorly handled that it's hard to feel bad for the kids because I don't really feel the pain of the parents, nor understand their struggle. Compare that to Mrs. Doubtfire, where it really shows the difference between Daniel and Miranda and makes their split more reasonable, while also showing the pains that it has on the kids a lot more bluntly, and it makes this film look that much more pathetic by comparison. It doesn't feel earned, especially when it comes to the ending, which... Ugh, I'm gonna be blunt. It really is terrible. It's genuinely ludicrous with the way it uses its twists and turns while trying to showcase its theme, and the final reveal of what happens to the family in the end is such a cop-out that it goes against the entire point of the film. It really falls flat. Even Shark Boy and Lava Girl handled it better than this film does. Yeah, I went there. Shark Boy and Lava Girl handled its themes much better than this. That film also doesn't fully work, but at least I could see Robert Rodriguez had more of a grasp on the themes and how to work with them compared to this. This feels discombobulated. I will give it this, though. It is better than the last animated film about divorce that was released on Netflix, produced by a former Pixar alumni. It's not saying much, though, considering the bar is exceptionally low, but... I guess that's something. Though, I know what you're going to ask. How are the stuff with the dreams? Weren't they cool? Not really. The dreams that the kids visit throughout the film have been done, and they've been done better in other media. Like, you got the flying bed, a world of delicious food, various nightmares, like the kids ending up naked in an apartment store. Yeah, this has been done time and time and time again.
Ooh, scary.
Teeth falling out. Yeah, I'm used to that one.
And this doesn't do anything unique with it. Mostly because the journey isn't that compelling, since the way it's connected feels so loose and poorly stitched, and also because the film is just not funny. The comedy in this film is particularly lame. The film leans into some lowbrow humor a couple of times, and none of it packs a punch. Like, what's so funny about seeing a stuffed animal fart lasers or hearing a demented version of Don't Ya by the Pussycat Dolls? Yeah, that happens. Does anyone even remember the Pussycat Dolls? Ugh. The animation in the film is somewhat decent, but it's nothing that impressive. The film was animated by Sony Pictures Imageworks, and while the film does look adequate and gets the job done, it really doesn't stand out amongst the sea of other films this year. Like, if you visually compare this film to something like Elio, or Bad Guys 2, or even Sony Pictures Imageworks' own K-pop Demon Hunters, this just doesn't cut it. It's far from ugly, but I've seen better. I will give it this, that there is a bit of inspiration with how the kids enter the dreams, as well as some of the production design, like the look of Sandman's castle, which had some MC Escher influence. That was neat, I guess, but it's nothing mind-blowing, especially when you compare it to the last film the production designer worked on. The film even tries to throw in some anime influence, but even that looks pathetic compared to K-pop Demon Hunters, which also had plenty of anime influence and was hilarious. That being said, are the characters good though? Not really. I've already talked about why the parents don't work with their conflicts, but the children don't work either. Neither Stevie or Elliot are fully fleshed out, apart from Stevie being the somewhat anxious and overly responsible older sister, and Elliot being the obnoxious and hyperactive younger brother. And that's all you get. These kids are as flat as a pancake, and I barely know anything about them. They feel as if they were pulled out of a cereal box. They have nothing that I can relate to, and don't really have the slightest bit of personality. All I know is that Elliot has this thing with magic, but that goes nowhere. And that Stevie develops this crush on this tired teen that works at the thrift shop where they get the book at. But all it reminded me of was how much funnier that gag was in Turning Red. At least in that film, when May sees Devin, she's initially disgusted by him before slowly developing the crush. This film, it's one meetup and bam, hard eyes. It's so lazy. Also, another reason why this movie fails compared to Turning Red is that it does not have this. That is one of the funniest movie moments of the decade, and I will hear nothing to the contrary. But yeah, getting back to it, I really do not like how these kids are written. And if anything, it just brings me back to this point I made when I reviewed the Twits a few weeks ago. Children deserve to be written better than this. They're not goody two-shoes or archetypes you can pull out of a box. They're people just trying to figure themselves out. Earlier this month, I saw a French animated film called Little Amelie, or The Character of Rain, and it was one of the best depictions of childhood I've ever seen, and it really captures what it's like to be young and showcase childhood in the most honest and sincere way possible. The children in that film felt genuine and real. So, to see a film like this come along and presenting children in the most archetypal way possible, it frustrates me. It's very dishonest storytelling, and I don't like it one bit. And it doesn't help that neither one of them feel like they have a genuine relationship with each other. Again, it feels stock, especially when they go on their journey and venture through these various dreams. I didn't feel like they grew at all. If anything, this film really made me appreciate Onward a lot more. For one, the energetic sibling and the straight man sibling roles were swapped, with the older brother being the goofy one, while the younger brother was the more anxious one. But it worked way more in that film because Ian and Barley felt way more developed. So when they go on their quests and learn the things they do, I ended up feeling more of the punch. Barley isn't just energetic because he needs to be, it's because he's a nerdy figure obsessed with magic and whatnot. And Ian is anxious because he's grown up without a father in his life and doesn't feel the security he's craving for. This is really strong writing, and it feels passionate. This, on the other hand, feels lazy. These children do not feel fleshed in the slightest. They feel exactly like what a Hollywood writer thinks children are like. And I don't find that interesting. Nor do I find the other characters interesting. I like Craig Robinson, but he was given nothing to do as Baloney Tony. It's basically, what if Bing Bong was exceptionally pointless to the story and very annoying? That's this character. Also, him being introduced with Hungry Eyes by Eric Carmen playing in the background, that's another thing. The needle drops in this film are exceptionally basic and generic. Like, in addition to Hungry Eyes and Don't Ya, this film also throws in Hey Ya, Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, Mr. Sandman, and even Enter Sandman. Oh, give me a break! How lazy can you get with song choices like this? I mean, you might as well throw in other songs featuring the word dreams in the title. Introducing Now That's What I Call In Your Dreams, featuring hit songs with dreams by Fleetwood Mac, John Lennon, and Gary Wright. Bye now. And the stuff with the Sandman, I'm not gonna get too deep into it because it's spoiler stuff, but it doesn't work. All In Your Dreams ended up making me do is want to watch a better film instead. And if that's the best thing I can say about your film, that is pretty bad. This film just left me with nothing. While its animation might be passable with some interesting production design, and the ideas are somewhat captivating, the final film falls apart due to its story being derivative, as well as really unfunny and poorly thought out, and the characters being poorly written and emotionally uninvolving. It's really not a special film, and I do not think it's worth watching whatsoever. As I said, there are tons of films out there that does what this film does, and it does them much better, and I'd search for them instead. If Pixar themselves made the film the way we got it, I still don't think I'd like it. This is absolutely the kind of film that feels like it belongs on streaming. It's just a really unremarkable film. And that's what I've got. I'm giving In Your Dreams a 4. Talk about an animated film that's off the assembly line. There have been good animated films that Netflix has produced and or released over the past 6 years, but this one doesn't rise alongside the greats. I'm not sure what Netflix will think of this film in a few years, but if they seriously think now this is going to be a big splash along the lines of something like K-pop Demon Hunters, well, it's in their dreams.
What a weird kid.
Sweet Jesus.